Hey everybody, welcome back to the homestead, and I'm Joe, and today we're going to be talking to Jill about how she preserves her, like spring egg harvest, when your chickens are just laying like crazy, for use in like December, January, February, in the depths of winter when chickens do not typically lay a whole lot of eggs. So it's a really cool technique. Jump right in, she's going to tell you all about it. This is the Anyone Can Farm experience. All right, Jill, so what are we going to need to get started water glassing our eggs?
Okay, first off, this isn't water glassing.
Oh.
Technically, water glassing is a slightly different technique. This is liming. We're going to be using lime to preserve the eggs from fall, at least, or summer, till whenever we need them again. We're going to be using pickling lime, hence liming. They've said that, I've heard, it's a particular type of lime. Concrete lime is not the right kind of lime, and you can do bad things with your eggs. But pickling lime is really easy to find and very plentiful, so it's very safe. Best thing to use. What we're going to do with the lime is create a seal on the egg that will help supplement the seal that nature already put on it, so that it doesn't lose its moisture and dry up and rot while we're storing it. This is a really useful process on the homestead because egg laying is a seasonal thing. The hens don't like to lay through the winter. They will only lay if you do a lot of external input of electricity and time by keeping their water warm, by having a heat light going or an electric bulb, whatever it takes, and feeding them really high octane feed. By making good use and storing the abundance of eggs that they lay in the spring, I don't have to do any of that. I let them rest through the winter, and I not only save on the electricity that I don't have to run and the extra time to give them all the TLC they need, I get an extra year of laying out of my hens, so I don't have to replace them as often. So, all in all, it's a really good process. Plus, you have your own good eggs through the summer, or through the winter, excuse me. A couple tips. One is you absolutely have to have clean eggs. You cannot wash them. They need the entire complete bloom on the outside of the egg. You can dust them off, but if you wash them at all and compromise that bloom, they'll rot. Voice of experience, I've tried it. You also want to be very careful carrying them from the egg house to the kitchen. Should the egg collector carry them in a basket on his bike or in coat pockets, they can have micro cracks that you won't see until they've soaked in the lime water for a few months. And then you see it, but then it's too late. So you want to make sure that your nests are well bedded, their footing is dry so they're not tracking muck into the nests. You get good clean eggs, and then handle them with care so that you don't get those little micro cracks that can trip you up. The other thing that I have found through trial and error is that the eggs that keep best are the ones from hens that are eating fresh grass. So right now around us, there's very little green, enough that we can go ahead and do this process today. But when I really start saving eggs, it's going to be a little later in the season when there's a lot of green grass for the hens to eat, and they lay those really dark orange yolks. Those maintain their integrity the best. They also have the most nutrient density, so that when you're going through the winter and you really need a lot of nutrient density in a small package, those eggs have it for you. So, our process.
Hey, it's me again. If you guys are enjoying this video, I'd really appreciate it if you give a thumbs up for Jill if she's explaining this well. If she's doing a bad job, give her the old thumbs down, She can take it. She's fine. Anyway, let's jump right back into this.
It's a really basic ratio of 1 ounce of lime to a quart of water. This is a really cheap kitchen scale from the store. I'm gonna weigh 1 ounce of lime into there. Lime is really light and fluffy. You want to be careful not to breathe it in, again, the voice of experience, because it kind of hurts and doesn't feel really great in your lungs. You will feel it. Okay, we're almost there. We want 1 ounce. There we go. And then we're going to add a quart of water, which is really handy, in a quart jar. You can mix this in greater quantities. So when I'm really saving, I'll mix this up a gallon at a time, and I save eggs in a 5-gallon bucket. And that's what I store them in. Yeah.
What'd she say, guys?
Don't breathe in the lime. It's just light and fluffy like that, even when you're stirring with the water. It'll get you. So you can mix this at 4 ounces to a gallon of water, but 1 ounce to a quart is easy to remember. And we're going to load our eggs in here. This is a 2-quart canning jar. You can find these about any place. You could also use the glass gallon pickle jars. Glass, or I don't know if about plastic. I've only ever seen people use the glass. Very carefully, so one downfall I can see of this 2-quart jar is the trick of getting your hand in and out of there. We're going to go ahead and put our eggs in. If you can get them to go pointy end down, there's a pointy end to the egg and a round egg. If you can get them to go pointy end down, they'll keep better. If you figure out how to do that, let me know. Because I've loaded a lot of eggs into containers and they're really hard. But that's just a tip for storing eggs in general. Pointy end down and they'll store better. So we'll load our eggs in. You cannot do this with store eggs. You've had that question before. You want them as fresh as possible. So same day, another voice of experience. If they sit out for a day or two, you'll have some that don't make it. You want to pick them up from the hen house, bring them in the house, and store them right away so they stay as fresh as possible. Store eggs, of course, are washed. They're sterilized and then they're recoated. Won't do. If you work with a farmer to get their eggs, you want to make sure that you make arrangements with them so that they pick up their eggs, you go and get them same day and then do it. Farmers market eggs, they may have sat for a few days, they may have been washed, so you certainly can do this even if you don't have chickens. You just want to make sure that your farmer knows what you want and what you're doing and you make the appropriate arrangements. All right, we got our eggs in our jar. Pour the lime in. And there you go. I'm going to rinse this jar out a little bit. And for storing, you want the liquid to completely cover the eggs. If there's egg poking up, that's a spot where it can dry out and it'll spoil and you'll lose it. I'll show you what we've got going and how you can know if you have good eggs or not. This is a bucket from July and August of last year, and it's now April. So we've got, what, close to 9 months on that? You can see there's a crust on there. Just gonna go ahead and pull a couple of eggs out carefully. Because you don't want to crack them in the bucket either. Although if that happens, it's not the end of the world, because you've got one bad egg, you'll throw that away. The rest of them are still okay, even if the bucket gets a little smelly. The eggs are still okay. All right. Now, as we look at them here, I'm going to rinse them off because you don't want that extra lime to get into whatever you're doing. This one right here, you can see has cracks on it. and it's interacted with the lime. That one goes to the pigs or the chickens or the compost. We're just gonna toss that one right out of hand. The rest of these look okay. So as I use them, I look for any cracks. Sometimes they get a lime accumulation, that's what that is, but it's not a crack. Go to use them, you always crack it into a container. There. That one's fine and good, and you can see at 9 months, we still have a good solid yolk. You could fry that egg. Sometimes they get to the point where the yolk gets compromised a little bit. You just scramble it up. It's great for baking. Fried eggs might get tricky, but scrambled eggs is fine. Whatever you want to do with it. If an egg breaks in your bucket, not the end of the world. It might be a little stinky. You just throw away the bad egg, and the rest of them will be fine, even if the bucket doesn't smell like roses. They're fine. You just bring them out, rinse them off good, and go about using them. So
if an egg did break, could we pull all the eggs out and then lime bath them?
You can, and I have done that before. The year that we had a lot of eggs come up on the bike, we had a lot of eggs go bad. And it was in part because they were cracked like this, and so then they compromised and they rotted. And I ended up doing that with one bucket. I got all the eggs out, sorted out the bad ones, and put the good ones in a new fresh bucket and relimed them, and they were fine. So worst case scenario, if you have a lot of eggs that get questionable, you can just repack them, and it's not a big deal. You'll notice on this that the lime is settling on the eggs perfectly fine. It's what it does. The lime is still dissolved in the, or it's not perfectly dissolved, but it's still in the water. That's a little bit of what I was rinsing off the other eggs, was the lime that had settled on them. It keeps them just fine. These are nutrient dense, good food for you, perfectly stored. Keep them in a dark, coolish place if you can. However, I've stored them up here in my kitchen from when I finished the bucket in July or August until I started using the bucket until in February, and they store just fine, just about anywhere. If you have a basement or a cool, dark closet, that's best, but anywhere in your kitchen is fine. They're shelf stable the way they are. Your preserved egg harvest.
All right, there we go, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope we did a good job of explaining everything to you. But if you have questions, drop them down in the comments section. We'll be answering everything down there. And if you're curious about how we, run our winter chicken coop and the ideas that go into it, go ahead, click this video right here. We'll catch you guys in the next one.